We just want to say welcome and thank you for joining us. It's Spirit Talks, a Spirit Talk gathering, which we did a couple of years ago, and we were doing it for a while. And it just came up to begin them again. And this topic, which feels so important, is about from empath to empowered. And so we're going to cover some different aspects and things related to that. Super, super excited that you're here, and we hope to open it up for question and answers. And I am Debbi Adams, so I do a lot of different work through the years, and I have personal sessions, still offer personal sessions that I like to gear towards exactly what your needs are and what you want to gain. And so there's a lot of magic that can happen in transformation, and that's how I love to work. So um, I would love to have Kimberly introduce herself and then Shannon.
Hi everyone, my name is Kimberly Valentine and I'm calling in from Longboat Key, Florida. I also do sessions at times. I'm mainly right now doing silent sessions and assisting people and learning how to transform pain and suffering into ease and grace and wisdom. Thank you. Shannon?
Hello, I'm Shannon Gornall. I live in Western Maryland, and I too am a spiritual life coach and just open to growth and learning and sharing through my experience and helping others with their experience. And I love crystals, and I just enjoy our spiritual group, and I'm glad everybody's here today to join in the fun with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. So I wanted to start us off just a little bit with like, what is the difference between like being empathic and being an empath so that we kind of have a little bit clarity around that. And being an empath is someone who is highly sensitive and deeply intuitive. So an empath can absorb other people's emotions. They can take on another's pain, another's stress, another's joy, as if it's their own. Um, so in empath, it's not necessarily like when you're have empathy or you're in identification, connected with a person and they're telling you a story, and so you're naturally feeling or responding to the cues that when you're with that person and in communication. An empath might not have any communication, but is already energetically connected and aware. And I'll give an example because this comes from way back when, for me, when I was first learning how much I called it being a sponge, how much I absorbed other people's energy around me. So this truly happened. I was sitting in a group of like 8 to 10 women, and we were kind of in an oblong circle. And everyone was taking a turn to talk, and I was, I think, scheduled to be the last person to speak. And I started feeling crazy. I literally had in my mind, like, I'm crazy, I'm certifiably insane, something is really wrong, I need to get out of here. I started having this go in my head. And I can tell you, I've never had a mental illness diagnosis, anything like that. It was just so in my head, and I thought I'm going to have to get up and just run and just scream and get out of here. And the woman next to me started talking, and I couldn't really see her. I had to turn all this way, and she had a wig on. I recognized her voice, but she called herself a different name. She had a wig on. She had a gun in her purse as she showed us, and she was in a paranoid episode. And I just watched that, and I thought, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm just sitting next to someone who's and having something go on with her, you know? And so it was my first awareness. And as I said, I didn't even have a word for it back in the 80s. Like, oh, I'm like a sponge. I am sitting here and I can easily absorb someone else's emotions. So that is how, like, I didn't look at her, I didn't communicate with her, but yet all of that information was there. So my intuitive body knew and received and had that for me. And so when you're empathic, it doesn't necessarily come from the same cues and clues that we gather socially. We're such social creatures when we're communicating from the words and from, the smiles and, the expressions on people's body and in their face. An empath can totally read a room and pick up information from the intuitive body self, from the sensitive aspects that they're tuned into. So I hope that's helpful. And Kimberly, Shannon, you want to add anything?
I've had similar experiences. And I too was not sure what was happening. And this was, 10, 15 years ago. When I would go out, if I would be out at a bar or a social gathering where there was a lot of people, and regardless if, because I don't drink anymore, but regardless if I was drinking or not drinking, now if I was drinking, it was even worse. But I noticed that, like, before I realized what was going on, it was the same thing. Like, I could just, these thoughts would come in my head, and I'm like, where's this coming from? Or these feelings, not being sure what, where it was coming from. And then the day after, it was like, now I know it was like this hangover of being around all these people. And I was allowing all this to come into my field, not knowing how to protect myself, not knowing how to release it. So days after, I would just be exhausted, and then once I realized, oh, this is what's happening, then there's where the spiritual tools come in to be able to assist, when you are out in places that there can be a lot of people. So, yes, I understand that feeling too. I'm sure all of us have had similar experiences. Kimberly?
Totally. I definitely was born an empath for sure. And, growing up as an empath, I was very quiet and introverted and really did not hang out with a lot of people, just because I didn't really even know what an empath was. I just knew that I was always overstimulated and I really didn't like the way I felt around people. I mean, I liked people and I loved people, but it was draining for my nervous system. It was draining for my head. And I too would feel, a body hangover.
Yeah.
But, it felt like I was in a cursed life, so to say. But what truly used to be a curse is now a superpower. Once I learned to integrate and realize that I am this spiritual instrument, a divine instrument of, the creator. What do I do with this curse? Transform it into a superpower that actually helps me live a life that's beautiful, and also be able to be around people and understand them and actually have compassion and not push them away. So, and you can say, well, how did you do it? Well, for me, I had a spiritual kind of breakthrough. It was as if I just popped open and became super sponge-like how Debbi said, and I had no other choice but to basically go inward. And I would call it solitude. And I literally it felt like eternity, but for many years, I just went inward and was alone and just spent time in nature. I couldn't go to the grocery store. It was just, overwhelming. And I'm just going to share a few things that I did. I would ground myself down, and it was to the point to where I would have to set a timer every hour, and timer would go off, and I'd say what my present moment was. Meditation was a big one. So, just learning how to discern, who I was, what, who am I? What am I here to do? And what's mine and what's not mine? And what's mine to transform and what's not. And also through that, I learned boundaries,
Mm.
which is a superpower, you know?
Hmm. Yes, thank you, Kimberly. And you speak to that, the very true thing with an empath. If we don't have discernment or the ability to figure out what is mine and what is another's, and what is mine to do is another level of that. Like, why am I aware of it then? And as somebody who can be associated with someone who provides healing or provides, those kind of experiences for people. And I have throughout my life, it's like, so what is mine to do? And one of my mentors always said, pretty much, if it's in your field and in your awareness, you can do something about it. Even if it's prayer, if it's something, you can bless the situation, you can absolutely help to transmute or transform it. But I don't have to carry it. I
Mm.
don't have to continue to carry it. And so learning how to do that was a process. And, how I help people through the years to learn how to do that. But if we don't do that, we can experience all the things like intense fatigue and total burnout and, the emotional overstimulation and the inability to really function the way that other people do. So it's super important for empaths. I've noticed many times they require the alone time, and the alone time is really like the defrag on a computer. It's kind of like, whoa, okay, like this time to process and let go from all the deeper awarenesses that the body has brought in, that the light body, the intuitive body has brought into the field. And so sometimes it's ours to do, sometimes it might not be, and always asking that, like, is this mine? Is this mine to, what's required? What am I to do with this since I'm aware of it now? So, yeah, that's,
I'd like to add to that, Debbie, the type of empath that I am at sometimes is where, if I'm around a complete stranger or even a friend, I wake up, I feel my body, I know what's mine. But if I'm around someone, I can start to feel and get informed in my own physical body of things that are happening in someone else's body. And at first, this is another reason why I would just be super introverted, very private, didn't really like to be around people. But then I, was in a class with Debbie, and she really helped me learn and discern, hey, listen, this is transference. This is a spiritual gift. And if you're feeling it, and if you can like go neutral without judgment and let this wave kind of wash through you, a transformation will happen both for the other person outside your eyes, but also for you as well. So I always say after that, like, oh, you, me, we, and all of thee are in a healing. But I can feel at times, like, oh man, like, what is this? Like, what is this right here? And then I'll find out, like, oh, this person has, something going on. But that can be a spiritual gift, if you're around people and you start to feel things, maybe ask them, hey, listen, do you have something going on in your, in your right foot? And they'll probably tell you, yes. How did you know? And now you can learn that, wow, you're an intuitive through your body. Does anyone in our group, does anyone resonate with anything that we're saying?
and they could take themselves off mute and speak up. If there's something to share, feel free.
Hi.
Hi, Pam.
Bam.
I'm here in Sun Lakes, Arizona. I used to I was in some classes with Debbie at SWIHA and at Unity of Sun Lakes a long time ago. And That's why I'm, on her mailing list. Anyway, I never thought of myself really as an empath. I don't, I, in the way that you shared with, the feelings would come to you, but I always felt uncomfortable in groups and I always wanted to be alone. And I think I just had feelings. I would feel feelings in my body that it was uncomfortable and I didn't, and maybe it was coming from other people. So, or maybe I'm just not as empathic, but my husband used to make fun of me because I always used to say I wanted to have my own little place. And now I do, and I love it. I love my solitude. So, but um, I still, even though I don't identify with everything you said, I feel the tools you talk about, the boundaries and knowing what is mine is still very helpful to know.
Mm.
Thank
So,
you.
Hmm. I would like to say it was a process of trusting myself, first of all, to speak up and to say, do you mind if I share something or can I ask a question when I was aware of something? And so that was very helpful, Pam, to begin to distinguish, is this mine? Why am I aware of this? And this will happen often when I'm out in public, like I feel like you walk through thought fields and sometimes some resonate, but I'll have random thought, like a random, I don't even know what to say, sexual thought, maybe something. And I'll be like, what? And then I'm aware that it's like, oh, like I'm together in this collective, and that's the thing that kind of popped in and popped out. So, I don't have to hang on to everything that even comes in through the thoughts, through the thought waves, that I can be aware, oh, I'm in more of a collective field right now. And then because you are the guardian of your energy and your joy, you have permission to do what you need to do, to manage that. And has anyone ever walked into some place and then immediately felt like, I just need to leave. I have to get out of here.
Immediately, no. Yeah. I've
Yes.
even gotten to the point where, and this is a tool that over time I was able to grow and know how to use it. I will even sometimes, if I am going out to like a public event, tuning into the energy there. You know what I'm, because like I know my energy, I'm in my space. Okay, this is how my energy field is feeling. Taking the time to do a little meditation and saying, okay, I want to tune into the space that I'm going to, and then sit with the feelings and the energies that come. And then I'm able to say, okay, I know my energy, that's that energy. And how much time do I want to spend in that space? Again, the boundaries, how much time am I going to allow myself to be there? And I can always tell if I overextend my time. You know, you could, I mean, I like my husband and I have a little cue now, and sometimes it's him and not me, but we have something that before we leave, we'll say, okay, what's our word or what's our code word that we're ready to go, and he respects that for me as well, because it's hard when you want to go out and be social and enjoy life and be around a group of people. It's really important to have those boundaries up, because sometimes it's even stepping into the bathroom of wherever you are and going into the stall and being like, okay, I'm going to do a couple deep breaths. I'm going to bring myself back down, ground myself, find my energy and protect myself and say, I'm going to put this shield around myself of, 10 feet. And I'm not going to allow anybody else's energy to flow in my space. Those are some experiences that I've had and that I've learned through spiritual mentors, Debbie, Kimberly, a few other people. So it's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
Part of being an empath too, we talked about feeling in your body, and then another way you can, be an empath is seeing. you
Mm.
know, your inner vision, you know, seeing pictures and, you know, not no, I'll give you an example. Today, you know, just had this random vision come to me of something falling out of a truck. And immediately I called this person, you know, and I said, "Did something just fall out of your truck?" And they were blown away. They're like, "How did you know?" And I don't know how I knew. But what I can tell you is that over time, once you start to trust what you're hearing, trust what you're feeling, and have people confirm to you, then you start to understand that your tuition is spot on, and you know you can rely on it too. So then it gives you confidence.
Mm.
Yeah.
It becomes a blessing and a
Yeah.
gift, and you understand it's a blessing and a gift.
Yeah, and just one more example, and I could just one more example. 2 weeks ago, I was in a store and I just saw this baby outfit. It was a newborn outfit, and I just kept hearing, "Buy this outfit. You need this outfit." And I was like, I don't know anyone with a newborn, but you know, I just knew to buy this outfit. And bought the outfit. A few days later, one of my employees was rushed to the emergency room. She's 6.5 months pregnant. She didn't know. She thought she was in menopause, and she had an emergency C-section for something called preeclampsia. So I just was like,
Wow.
this outfit's for her. Like, I didn't know that she was pregnant. She didn't even know she was pregnant. But like, just trusting that intuition, maybe time doesn't always mean like here now. It could be like maybe here, there, everywhere, and nowhere at once, you know?
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point too, that sometimes the way that our empathic feeling level will work is just what I used to when I was a teenager. I went to my parents' home, and every time that I was talking on the phone, I was gone for a while and I came back to, and they had a new home. I would be in this room, and of course, the cord doesn't stretch, and I would get goosebumps up and down my body, which I've learned to call God bumps. And I would feel like just this energy. And finally, I went to my mom and I was like, "Why do I feel this?" And she said, "Oh, we bought this house. There was a husband and two kids and his wife, and he got cancer and he died. That was their bedroom in there." And, later they built the second story. She took the money that she got and, built a second story, etc. So that wasn't even current, but yet I knew something. My body was telling me there was something. And only I was still a teenager, and it wasn't until years later that I worked with death and dying and those kind of things, and receiving messages from loved ones on the other side. So it doesn't really even have to be, like something that's current. We can walk through some kind of energy field or emotional heaviness, or and just the way that we're wired, it's come into us and our awareness.
Totally.
Well, I have some questions that might, keep lead us in a direction. Um, and that could be really good. And one of them is, well, there's a couple of them. One is, what do you do in the moment if you feel yourself suddenly flooded or overwhelmed in public? And I think we might have touched on that. Shannon talked about going into a bathroom. We talked about leaving, which sometimes is really the solution. I don't want to minimize that. Sometimes we have to get out of that soup, of energy to get back to our energy. But maybe there's some other
Yeah. I,
tools.
I can answer some tools that I do sometimes depending on the energy. Um, Sometimes I will wash my hands up to my elbows, with cold water, you know. Um, if I'm at my house, I will take like a salt bath, put some flowers in there, just, chant, sing a song, depending, like, just to try to raise my vibration. Those are some of the things that I will do. And other times I'll just have fun with it, just be like, letting it wash through me, because sometimes I feel like, oh, this is a download. Like I'm, whatever this is gifting me information, like I might need to know this, but sometimes I might not need to know it. And if it feels yet like yuck, um, one thing that really works is I do this like energy chop. I, yeah, with all my might, with like my heart and soul, like, yeah, and with intention, like, no, not today. And that seems to help me sometimes. Yeah.
Something else that I do just in preparation if I'm going out and is of course my crystals. I might pick a specific crystal for protection that I might take with me, especially depending on how I'm feeling. Like Kimberly said, if my cup is full and I'm like, you know, I'm feeling like a spiritual warrior, like everything is on, like I'm in a good headspace mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, I just might plop a crystal on to kind of protect myself. If I'm feeling low energy, I might have a crystal in my pocket. I might have one on my neck. Sometimes I'll even wear one to where it's going to hit the back of my neck, because sometimes for me, I feel energy can kind of get through in the back of my head. Sometimes I'll wear a turtleneck, just depending on the time and the space. Trying to think of some other ones. As Kimberly said, when I come home, I'm most definitely going to take an Epsom salt bath or a shower, and I'm going to make sure I have some alone time. But if I am out in public, like I said, I'll do the bathroom trick, or if I have the ability to go outside and just be in nature for a few minutes, that's also another tool that I like to use, because I do feel like nature is, the best medicine.
I'd like to share with the group, if you don't mind, Debs, but I used to feel like the spiritual realm. So, like, yeah, we can feel like the manifested world, but I too, like Debbi, would feel spirits and work in the invisible realm, not because I wanted to, but because I naturally was had the ability to. Um, and sometimes I didn't want to, but those times that I didn't want to and I needed relief usually was in my bed. I would be woken up by energy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I didn't like what it felt like. It would come in pain, and I would get a pen and I would write. I'd say hi, and I'd call it the visitor. And I would literally write out, just freelance write what this was. And it always turned out to be an ancestor gifting me wisdom. So, and then after I would write it, I would read it, and then poof, like whatever that energy was, it was gone. So that's another tool, is like writing and communicating with some of the sensations that might be irritating you. And this could
I
even be a diagnosis as well. You can look at, that possibly as a visitor too.
That's happened. I'm going to have to work on practice that one, Kimberly. For me, sometimes if I get visitors in the middle of the night, I'm the type of person, if I get up and write, I might not be able to go back to sleep. So I'll sit there as well and like tune into the energy and say, okay, is this, a multi-dimensional experience? Is this a spirit that has crossed over wanting to communicate, try to decipher? And usually if it's, somebody wanting to communicate something to somebody else in the middle of the night, I'll speak loud and just say, I appreciate you coming to me. But I would also appreciate it if you will come back to me and not in the middle of the night. And we can communicate, and hopefully I can deliver your message if it's like someone that has crossed over, because that happens sometimes too. And I don't want to do that in the middle of the night.
I think that in the dream time too, you're more relaxed. Some people like in meditation or even like going to sleep, your dreams could be another way of be realizing that, hey, I am an empath. But what do we do? Thank you, Tina. Thank you.
Hi, Tina.
What do we do with this? That's where the empath becomes empowered. Like, how can we use this to benefit ourselves? How can we use this to benefit other people?
Mm-hmm. So I thought it might be important for us to address the question, like, how do you know when it's time to like lovingly release a relationship versus continuing to work through it and work on it as an empath? Entanglement. I will say if it's entangled, if they're, and families can become that way, family relationships, and it's just, sometimes it's the most loving thing to do to be able to like step aside and step away for a while.
I think for me, realizing that I had an inflated ego at one time to where like I wanted to be a healer. I wanted to have a label. And also realizing that when I was doing that, taking on other people's stories or feeling their feelings or emotions for them, I was at the time unconsciously robbing them of their path and their wisdom. And so when I realized what was happening, I stepped away from all the do and just become more of a be witness for others, and stopped colluding with their stories and just held space. And I think that that's where my meditation practice became a superpower for myself and other people, because instead of being a doing empath and feeling and colluding and polluting the field, I transformed it into an empowered way of just holding space and allowing someone to be just who they are as they are, and not trying to fix them or change them or create a story around it. So for me, that's kind of where I'm at on the spectrum of being an empath. But yes, I still feel and hear and see at times. And it is uncomfortable sometimes. But I do have different practices that I do when the sacred witness is not available.
Yeah. Can I share one thing that I've found extremely helpful in the light of what you said? And
Please.
and that is, even I do this, like maybe I'll see somebody who appears to be a drug addict, homeless, and things like that, is I've started just seeing people in their own like huge light field column of energy, and just seeing them directly connected to source energy and to earth energy, and just like like I don't have to try to fix, as Kimberly's saying, or heal, or engage, but just seeing them like empowered, and in this light energy field. And it's really wonderful to hold that space, with no awareness. It's like a silent prayer, it's visual prayer, just like holding that space for someone. And even in someone's presence, when I'm silent, quite oftentimes it's just beholding the divine and the divine light and essence that we're all held in, truly.
I also noticed too, like leading meditations with groups. Um, there can be an intensity. So, you start out and everybody's kind of, or even public speaking before you get on, or whatever it is, walking into a new situation, you feel the jittery or that kind of energy. That's the energy of the collective group. And it takes some time to act, I would say be an eine or one with the energies of the collective mindset. And so if at times, when I'm leading people through meditation, I'll say, this might get intense, but just hold it. And right before the intensity gets to be so much where you just want to back out and stop the meditation, you just break through. You have this breakthrough of bliss, so that's another thing too. Like, it's okay if it gets uncomfortable, just be aware and present to it, and then the transformation happens for the healers in the group, the people that are in the work of healing, Reiki masters, shamanic practitioners, life coaches, therapists, doctors, etc., etc. So Debbie, when do you have any advice for the empaths who when they individuate, because it's part of the path of an empath. An empath is learning to integrate all her shadows, and then once she awakens in consciousness to her shadows and to the beings that are showing up outside her eyes as reflections of lost parts of herself, we know that that's a sign that you're awakening in consciousness and you have this opportunity to individuate. And what does that mean? That means that you get to pick and choose through boundaries. And a lot of empaths, are learning to say no. And that's hard for an empath, like they say yes most of the time. Some of us, we say yes when we really don't want to. And then anger could come up and then projecting happens. And so, Debbie, do you have anything you would like to share about sacred boundaries and the process of the empath turning into an individuated, awakened woman?
It's definitely a process. That's what I would like to say. It's definitely a process. And honestly, for myself, my particular experience in life, I had to get in my body. I wasn't even in my body. I really had gone out of my body. So, the first stage for me was to get in my body and get comfortable and get connected with being okay to be in my body. I don't know how else to explain it, but I can still, it's like it is um a mechanism that can get triggered if there's times where you diffuse. Sometimes people react in anger and hostility, protection, or whatever. And diffusion is kind of mine, like, whoop, just, I'm gone, like my energy. So it was learning to recognize the unhealthy or trauma patterns that I had was so important. And then getting in my body and being safe in my body and then being safe, in this world. Like, it just came through spiritual practices for me. And that process of, as you say, individuation, it's like becoming sovereign, over your energy, over your body, over your life. Like if something's going on and I can't shift it or whatever, it's like, we have to move into the experience of acceptance and allowing and being one with, and all of those are different avenues of like spiritual becoming, spiritual development that leads us into our true self and our authentic self, but also that leads us into having healthy boundaries and being, a solid person through the core of your being present, so that you are present, to your own self, and present, to all life around you. And so I just think it unfolds, in such a unique way. But I'm grateful for the people along the ways, and mostly, honestly, it was some community that would meditate together, and just in that space of silence. Like, a lot of times somebody would be doing a guided meditation, but whatever was happening inside me was completely different. And I understand that's the importance. That's like your inner teacher. I would be shown so much and learn so much. And so those periods of being able to, you know, I'll say the word withdraw from the world, but really to enter into, the inner world and the inner life and the inner being, really helped me to be able to be here in the world. Because, the world can be very chaotic. And there's a lot going on and happening. So how do we stay in the open heart? And again, that's about boundaries. That's about personal boundaries. And so if I choose not to watch news, not to engage, not to be part of something, I'm not burying my head in the sand. I'm making a conscious choice for me where I'm aligning my energy. And that's in the solution. That's in the love. That's in the vibration that we are one. That's in the truth that I know in my
Mhm.
being. And that is how I'm sovereign. I get to decide where my energy is going to go or be.
Debbie, that sounds like be be in the world but not of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Be in
It's
the world
hard.
but of it.
I was gonna similar to Debbie because I would do the same, just be outside of my body and just, you know, and then go out into the world and then come home and just be so disheveled and just, it's like, and I hate to say this, but it's like you feel like a shell of a person. It's like this vessel is like, okay, what am I doing here? And it's so much about going within and practicing your own personal boundaries, because until we can set boundaries with ourselves and go within and really, you know, love ourselves enough to do that, how can we go out and offer our services to other people if we don't have strong boundaries with ourselves? That was something that I had to learn. And it's a process, and it still happens. It gets, you get run down, but it always comes back. Okay, what am I not doing for myself? Where am I not taking time for myself? So then it goes back to the boundaries within. So
Mhm.
to have those boundaries within, then, and it is hard. I lost a few friends setting boundaries, but that's okay because my life became lighter, and I realized that those relationships were unhealthy and those people were just taking from me, and it wasn't a flowy process. So I'm grateful for that. In the beginning it was hard because it was like, okay, and it just would happen like boom. Like, okay, and I accept it because those people left, but then who came into my life? People that were more aligned with me, people that were more aligned with me spiritually, it just, so the universe offers, what it can, but you have to do the work around it.
Mhm.
I also like to add to that, a few years back, I studied shamanism, and that really helped me uh, with boundaries and loving myself. And so, one of the directions is the north direction, which represents the hummingbird, and the hummingbird represents the sweetness of life. And I had to basically train myself moment to moment and remind myself moment to moment, is this something I want to participate in? And I feel in my body, like if I feel it's beautiful, is this conversation taking me to my goals? Is it taking me to the joy and the bliss and everything beautiful in this life? Then I'll participate. If this trip or this, I mean, there are so many times where I will feel, yeah, I really want to go on this trip. And then, you know what? My intuition kicks in and I feel it in my gut. And I'll be like, you know what? Not today. And I just trust that, like that's healthy for me. And that's another thing that you can use as an empath. Like, is this beautiful? Would a hummingbird consider this nectar? Is this the sweetness of life? Is this thought that I'm having resonating with abundance? Is it resonating with, health, happiness, joy, bliss? Because we've spent so many years in the opposite of that. And now you have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And say yes to the sweetness of life. And sometimes the sweetness of life is the ending of a relationship, the ending of the roles that have been placed on you, including your name. You were given the rules, you were given your name, you were given your religion. Like sometimes you just have to become an empty vessel to allow your high self, your avatar self, your healed self to embody yourself, which is this body in this lifetime and in this moment to guide you. And that's how the empath or the wounded healer transforms into her goddess self, her transformer self, her individuated self, her awakened self. So the empath is, they say, oh, it's a double-edged sword. Well, you learn to play with that sword and turn each end of that sword into a staff and recreate your life. One that helps you and guides you in this life, but also can benefit other people if you share it with them.
Thank you. So this might be the perfect time. Thank you so much for that. There's a lot of richness that we've been sharing, but to open it up in case there's any Q&A, and you can even write yours Q&A in the chat if you want to. So yeah, Tina and Pam both said they have to run and goodbye, but if anyone would like to share or ask a question, I think Alexis, it's fine. Alexis, you can take yourself off mute.
Thank you so much. Hi, ladies. My question is, I heard, originally they would teach us if we put the white light around us for protection, but then I heard that attracts dark entities. So just what are good methods for before you walk out the door, when you're going out in the real world, protection methods, please?
Do you want me to answer first? I'll share first. So, integrating your shadow would be the first, I would say, like knowing yourself and doing shadow work and an understanding that you have this magnetic field around you. And sometimes, you can attract parts of yourself that are reflecting outside your eyes to give you an opportunity to awaken to the parts of yourself that you only see outside yourself and not realizing that it's part of yourself too. But also prayer, singing, dancing, essential oils, raising your vibration, loving yourself. I would say just loving yourself. And even then you can get situations that will arise. But I would just say self-love for sure.
Like I said, I will sometimes carry my crystals. Another thing that I always do, though, is just a little quick meditation, connecting myself to the earth and to the higher realms, and then put myself in this 5-pointed star, this Merkaba. And then I place like this golden dome around me. And then I just ask the angelic kingdom to come down, the ascended masters, You might be your guides and guardians, could be, this north, south, east, west direction. And I kind of put myself in this. I mean, it's not a white light. I've not heard that before, but I do put myself in this protective, meditation that I do for myself. So maybe it's about creating a short meditation that you can do. And now it's to the point where I don't even have to say it out loud. As I'm getting ready, I'm saying it in my head and I'm calling in whatever energies I want to call in for protection before I walk out the door. So that's one of the things that I do, along with, wearing my crystals for protection. And like I said, I also put that when I do my like golden dome and my Merkaba and connect myself to the earth and the higher realms, then sometimes I'll even put like a distance out, maybe it's 5 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet, just of protection. So I have like this buffer around me. So that's just a couple of things that I do sometimes.
You said the golden dome around the Merkaba. What color is the Merkaba?
Well, so like I'll do like a 5-pointed star. So like imagine I connect to Mother Earth Gaia, and then I connect to Lord Metatron. And then I imagine myself inside this 5-pointed star. And then I don't really have a color around that, but like you might want to bring in the sacred flame of fire, which is like like that fuchsia pink color. Or maybe it's about the day that maybe whatever color comes to you, that could be a color that you could use. But the dome that I use, I imagine it being like this golden dome around me. And then I put ascended masters and, all the way around it. Sometimes I'll bring in the animal kingdom, put the animals around me. But I just do like a golden dome. And then the colors, like Archangel Michael, he's blue. So that could be, protection. That could be a color you could use. The sacred flame of fire, that's like that fuchsia color. It's all personal preference.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I just want to say gold is the divine light. It's like the mental clarity. This gold is beautiful, beautiful color to work with. Silver is more like the feminine and the stars and the stellar light. And then we have the violet flame, the most amazing violet flame light, which is highly transmutational. And there's rainbow light, just running rainbow light through your body, because that's what we live in, and our bodies resonate with that. And so I think it's more like the intention of it and trusting the light. Like light is divine, light is intelligent, light builds, light knows what to do. And so just trusting the light, if you're in this orb of light or dome of light, trusting the light, you know, like sometimes we think there's a lot to fear. And, if we are around hostile or angry or people out of control, it is a more dangerous situation. But most of the time where we're walking into, it's it's not that. And so just being able to be, a blessing and to look for the blessings, I think. A lot of times that's, that prayer will guide you to the blessings, will guide you to that. You can do drive-by blessings. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
thank you so much, ladies, because I live in a city with 9.5 million people, and after COVID, I go out and the amount of drug addicted, homeless, mentally ill people, I come home and I'm so drained that I can't even function.
Mhm.
So that's why I was asking. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Yeah.
can I add something,
Y-
Alexis?
Oh, please, Kimberly. Thank you.
Yeah, so when there's different levels to transforming in my world, different things that have helped me along the way. And a lot of in the past, I mean, I've done so many rituals to get comfortable to be around people. One of them was a candle ceremony, lighting a candle, having a bay leaf or a toothpick, and releasing, what's in your present moment. So you start with what's happening in your body right here and right now. And then you go back on your timeline. and and visualize, whatever it is that your vision saw that bothers you or, is haunting you, you just release. And then you go to the second leaf, and it's gratitude. And then the third leaf is the world that you want to live in, the manifesting. And then another ritual that I've done, like Shannon, is the crystal. Having a crystal with me, if I see something that I know that's kind of distracting me, that's penetrated my mind and has me over here and not right here, I will take the crystal and I'll blow whatever it is that's bothering me in the crystal. And that really helps. And that one's good for emotions, sadness, grief, anger. And ask yourself, do I need to respond to this? Most of the time, you don't need to respond. And how you could respond if you don't need to respond is releasing through the crystal. Going home, taking your salt baths, your essential oils, buying yourself flowers. Singing is a big one for me. I'm not a singer, but I learned through shamanic healing that singing vibrationally shifts and changes your energy field. So that's some of the things. And then walking in nature. Try your best to, walk in nature, ground down. And even if you live in a high rise, if you have, a balcony, go outside barefoot. Try to get in the sun as much as you can. Plant flowers. Just be around beauty the best you can.
Thank you. And Kimberly, when you come home with that crystal that you've
I
blown on,
can't hear.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, great. So when you come home and you blow on that crystal, do you then use a singing bowl? Like, do you cleanse it every night?
Normally I would put it on the earth. I would, it's called a sand painting, but if you live in a high rise and
I live in a high rise, no balcony.
Yeah. Okay. So, what you would do is put it on your balcony and maybe have an outline. So of other stones.
I don't have a balcony.
Oh, you don't have a balcony?
I do not. No.
Okay.
She can have a plant, a pot
That's what I was going to say.
and a plant.
Okay.
And you can put it in there.
Yeah.
Oh, that poor plant will probably die.
or you can put it in the window. But a lot of times, if it's really yuck energy, you can offer it to the earth. There are so many times where I just have crystals that I use and I offer them to the earth. Because if you think about it, you have an energy field. Your energy field informs the physical body. And if you have emotions, pollutions, toxic thinking, stinking thinking, if you hold on to an emotion longer than 20 minutes, 20 weeks, 20 months, then your energy field gets dark and it has darkness in it. But you're a light body. And so then your energy field gets heavy. Eventually that heavy energy can move into your physical form. But how the shaman heals herself is through doing stonework and blowing out people, places, things, situations in her timeline, missed opportunities of the past, to release that out of her body. So she basically extracts out timelines and stories that no longer serve her. And that's the work of the South, letting go.
Also, Alexis, amethyst would be something nice to perhaps maybe just a piece of amethyst crystal to carry in your pocket, maybe a necklace, because that's good for addictions. So maybe like when you're out in the community and you're wearing that could be a protection from all this energy that you're kind of feeling. And if you don't have house plants, like even house plants, like, like the air quality plants that like kind of take, you know what I mean? In just working with the plants and then having the air quality plants, and just asking the plants to help, you release this energy that you've kind of picked up on the street as well, because they can communicate with us. They're living beings as well. We just have to, same as the crystal, you can communicate and program them to assist you.
And also, like Debbie mentioned earlier, you become a prayer goddess. Mm-hmm. So like if you see somebody struggling,
I heard that.
Yeah, when you see somebody struggling, see them healed. Say, God, universe, your high self, I see you healed. Thy will be done. And now you're actually raising their vibration, your vibration. And eventually when you walk through that neighborhood, you'll see less and less and less of that.
Thank you, all three of you. Thank you so much. What wonderful tips, and I can't wait to start. Thank you.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
thank you. We have reached our time where it's 3 p.m. I don't know if there's any last minute, like somebody was really, really hoping to hear or ask a question. If so, um, uh,
Now's your time.
yeah, now's your time. And I just want to thank you all. And then Kimberly, do you want to say, oh,
Yeah.
from Susan, thank you so much. Such a great meeting. Would you like to say how people can reach you if somebody is
Yeah,
interested in
sure.
connecting with you?
So my email is valentine_garden@icloud.com. And my spiritual phone number is 941-299-1332. You could text me if you have any questions or want to reach out. Thank you.
Okay. And Shannon?
Yes, my email is Gornall, GORNALL.Shannon@gmail.com. And then I'll also give you my phone number because if you email me and I don't respond, text me 301-268-7316.
Okay, thank you. And this has been recorded. I think we're going to make it public. We made all the Spirit Talks public. In other words, you can find them. So thank you so much and bless us all. Yeah, it was wonderful to share with you today. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.